Oh yeah, no, James. Members, is everyone ready? We are nearing 10 o'clock. Well, I make it down with about 30 seconds. Sorry. Peter, if you could put yourself on mute, please, and switch your video off, that'll be helpful.
Yep, thank you. Sorry, disconnected, having real connection problems.
Morning, everyone. It's 10 a.m, so we will start the meeting now. Good morning, everyone with us virtually and also in the room. Welcome to this meeting of Cambridgeshire County Council's Planning Committee. My name is Councillor Henry Batchelor and I'm the chair of the committee. We'll be starting with a few bits of housekeeping and then we'll move into the main agenda items that we have before us today, members. So the council supports the principle of transparency and encourages filming, recording and taking photographs at its meetings that are open to the public. Members are advised that this meeting may therefore be filmed, recorded or photographed. In order to register to speak, you need to raise your hand, and those attending virtually may do so by clicking the raised hand function on Zoom and turning on their camera. You will then be added to my list of speakers. Could I ask, please, all members turn their mobile phones to silent or vibrate whilst the meeting is taking place. There is no fire alarm test scheduled for today, so if it sounds, then please leave by the nearest marked fire exit and assemble at the rear of the hall. Toilets are available on the ground floor and refreshments are available outside the venue. With that, members, we'll move on to the agenda, starting with agenda item number 1. That's apologies for absence. Daniel.
Thank you, Chair. We've received apologies from Councillor Mandy Smith and John Gehring is substituting, and also Councillor Anna Bradnam and Councillor Murphy substituting for her.
Thank you very much and welcome, councillors. Item number 2, members' declarations of interest. Do any members have any interest that they wish to disclose at this stage? Councillor Kindersley.
Thank you, Chairman. I am a trustee of the Cam Academy Trust, which is mentioned in agenda item number 5, the summary of decisions taken under delegated powers.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further declarations, members? No, we don't see any. So obviously, if anyone become aware of any during the meeting, please do just indicate. Item number 3, members, we're being asked to approve the minutes of the meeting of the 24th of February. However, they've only just been published on the website as of last night. So therefore, I would like to propose that we defer these to the next meeting, which will be next month. Are members in agreement with that, please? Good, thank you very much. With that, we move to the substantive business, which is item number 4 in our agendas. An application at Duxford Primary School. The presenting officer is James Stanley, but it's also making members aware that we also have 2 other officers who are supporting the committee on a technical level. We have Jez Tuttle from Highways, and we have James Stringer, who's a rights of way officer at the County Council. But with that, I believe Jane is joining us online. Jane, are you with us?
Yes, thank you.
Good morning. We can hear you, we can't see you.
I'm here, thank you. I'll just get the camera to work. I was about to share screens.
Okay, there we go, that's great. Okay, well, Jane, I'll hand over to you to introduce the report to us, please.
Thank you. I'll just share screens and put the PowerPoint up. Can everyone see that?
We can't, Jane, no.
No, sorry, just a moment. Just get that down. I'll just get it to share for you, hopefully.
You're sharing your screen, Jane. Okay, there we go.
Thank you.
That's great. We can see that perfectly, Jane. Thank you.
Thank you. So this proposal is for replacement of a single-storey Key Stage 1 block, new single-storey preschool building, reconfiguration of the car park, and replacement of hard standing for Key Stage 1, new boundary fence, landscaping and ancillary works following removal of the foundations of part of the building, removal of some external walls, and demolition of storage building. It's at Duxford, Church of England Community Primary School, St John Street, Duxford. The applicant is Cambridge County Council. The application number, as you see, is CCC 21246 full. The site that the County Council own is shown coloured blue. You can see it on the western side of Duxford. The M11 is on your screens to the left. You can see the local footpaths are shown on, the public footpaths are shown on the screen. The public footpath runs across the bottom of the community centre grounds. The application site is outside of the development framework boundary, outside of the conservation boundary, area boundary, which is the dashed line here. There is a protected village amenity space and a TPO along this boundary here. By means of introduction, Duxford Parish Council has submitted updated comments since the papers were printed, and these were accompanied by a petition containing 59 responses and 54 comments in support of the reinstatement of a path across the school site and 5 against. The updated comments only have been circulated to members of the committee, and as Councillor Batchel has introduced, we have some highways colleagues with us should members have questions at the end of the presentation of them. This plan shows the location of the representations received in response to the application itself. You have a group of representations received from governors and staff at the school. You've got a group received from parents. The green ones are in support, the red ones are in objection. You've got a group here from people that are trustees of the community centre who've written in individually, and a number of individual residents. There were 15 letters of objection in total, but those were from 12 individuals. This plan also shows the permissive path that has been used through the community centre. The community centre hall is here, comes from the public footpath up, and it goes to what has been recently a lock gate when the school aren't using it, at the bottom at the southern end of the school site. And there's been previously talked about a use of a path through the school area. This aerial shot shows the relationship in particular of the brewery field, which is also a public open space, to the northwest of the school, and its relationship with the community centre and public facilities to the south of the school site. To the rear of the school, there are the existing mobile classrooms in place. This shows the rear of the school looking west along the Daily Mile path. Again, the rear of the school showing existing cycle parking facilities, and towards the area where some of the fire damage occurred. This shows that this area that's been sectioned off with a compound at the moment where the fire damage occurred. The trees to the rear of the school that are shown to be felled have been felled, and they're in that area, in the compounded area. In the southeastern corner of the school site, this is an area where groups of trees were mentioned, some of which are still to be felled, and you can see some of those in the foreground within this former play area here. This is to the right of the picture is the former changing room buildings, which is proposed to be demolished. You can see houses to the backs of houses on St. John Street, and you can also see here in this right-hand corner of the screen the existing basketball court. The existing basketball court and the location of the changing rooms that are to be demolished is the proposed location for the preschool. You can see an existing timber shed, storage shed, which has been referred to in some of the correspondence and the report. Here we have a photograph looking from St. John Street, number 31 St. John Street, the vehicular entrance to the school, and also a footpath entrance. This is an existing car park on the eastern side, and we have the existing crossing, and you can see the remainder of the car park in this area here. You can also see on-street car parking and parking bays in front of the school. These show more of St. John Street. These were taken in the afternoon, not at pick-up or drop-off time. And here we have looking up St. John Street towards the junction with Hunts Road. The front of the school, where some of the fire damage has occurred, and this looks towards where the proposed amendments are for the cladding for the new entrance in this area here. I just need to change to a different PowerPoint. Hopefully, can you see the plan on the screen?
Yes, we can, Jane. Thank you.
Thank you. This shows the application area, edged red, within the school site. It also shows the existing pedestrian accesses, vehicular accesses marked, and the location of the proposed extensions to the rear of the school, and also the location of the proposed preschool building. And marked at the southern end is where the pedestrian entrance that's been talked about that leads to a permissive path across the recreation ground. This path, this plan was submitted by the parish council with their initial comments. It said that this was produced by council at pre-application stage, and there was discussion about a potential perimeter footpath, which has been mentioned but is not part of this application. We have the boundaries and security fence as part of the application. There's a 1.8 metre weld mesh perimeter fence where it would be within the application site. The demolition plan showing the existing fenced off area and the mobile classrooms to be removed and the trees to be removed that have recently been felled to the rear of the building, and small parts of the building to be demolished. This is the proposed outline landscaping plan, which shows a reconfiguration of the existing car park to show 2 delivery bays and an accessible parking space, a new car park containing 13 spaces with 1 accessible car parking space. This also shows you that the basketball court, which is currently here, is to be relocated in this position. This is a ground floor plan of the school extension, which shows the classrooms and a book room. It's also a small hall, and this is where the entrance would be clad. Here you have the elevation details of the new extension, the new classroom block, and the flat roofed link that links in with the existing building. The cladding at the front of the building that's proposed, and you have a visual that just shows you that in context. The floor plan for the preschool shows the lobby and the main entrance at the south corner in this position here. There's the preschool elevations, which show the 2 canopies on the side and also the fenestration detail. And there you've got a visual that puts the preschool in context. This is an indicative of the houses at St John Street, and that's the main entrance, and that's the canopy and teaching area onto the playing field. And I'll stop there at the moment, and the recommendation is as printed on your papers. It is recommended that the planning permission be granted subject to recommended conditions as printed in paragraph 8.2 of the officer report. Thank you.
Jane, thank you very much for that presentation. If you wouldn't mind holding on the line in case there's any questions of clarification for you. Members, do we have any questions of clarification for either the presenting officer or either of our technical officers that are supporting us? No, I don't see any. So with that, we'll move to our public speaking section. And we're beginning with a representative of Duxford Parish Council, Mr. O'Grady. Councillor O'Grady, are you with us?
Indeed, I am indeed.
Great. We can hear you but not see you.
Just turn my video on. Doesn't want to go on. I can't stand it. The host is not allowing me to use my video.
Okay. Well, I think as long as we can hear you, that's the important thing.
Okay.
Sorry, Jane, could I ask you to switch your camera off, please? Thank you. Well, Mr. O'Grady, you have 5 minutes to address the committee, and at the end of which there may be some questions of clarification for yourself. So if you wouldn't mind staying on the line for that, and whenever you're ready, please.
Okay. Well, 5 minutes is a very short time to cover all that has gone wrong with this application. We've submitted many documents which most of you have been aware of and been able to read, so I understand. The plans submitted were radically different from the plans presented to the village in March, which were warmly welcomed and covered and met all the needs of what everybody needed. At no time has the parish council or other interested parties been included in any discussions, whether it be pre-planning or at any other time. The only plans that we ever received were the ones which were showing a school path. As you know, we've subsequently received 60 replies to a survey we did about whether people wanted the school path or not. That's been forwarded to you. When we did have eventually a meeting with the education department, which took some doing to get, the first reply we had was the councillor, if he wishes to make a comment, could do so on the planning porthole. Luckily, Peter Macdonald, who was with us, managed to get a meeting. We then advised the education department we were going to put in for a public right of way for a path that has been in use some 40 years across the school. upon that, they had another meeting with us, and they agreed that they would put another application in to reinstall the path, and they would include us in correspondence. We subsequently agreed at the parish meeting not to put the planning application in, or put a public right-of-way application in, and trusted them. Consequently, though, in the last couple of months, we've discovered that they have no intention of putting an application in. They have been holding meetings with other third parties. One of the meetings was with the public right, they asked us was with public right-of-way at South Cams and Peter Macdonald, and they only 4 or 5 people were to be told of the outcome of that meeting. Again, we were not to be included. If we look at section 715 on the thing, it confirms that the planning officers asked the applicants whether they wish to make any changes to the landscaping and development that could conflict with the perimeter path. It was confirmed that the applicant department did not wish to amend the already submitted step schemes, so they have no intention of doing it. Section 512, which will enclose the involve the closure of an opening in the school boundary, that's the rear entrance. Section 512 said that they were intent on closing that, which was used as a route to access the school, and though it is not a public right of way, and access could be rescinded at any time. My understanding was that the school still wishes to use that path. Section 29 of your form states that it is considered the use of the southern gate as a matter of discussion between the owners, operators of the school, and the community centre and the manager of these sites. It is a matter outside the planning control. We have not been approached about this, so assume section 512 stands, and we already have safety concerns, as since the closure of that particular path, teenagers started to use the area as a meeting point, hiding in the corner of the wreck. So we've had no consultation with the educational department about crossing our land to that particular path. Fact 4, no consideration is given to the safety of the children on the way to school, only once at school. The safer report about approaching the school highlights the dangers of Hunts Road, as did the report we submitted, but appears not to have been included in any documentations. We did send a report into the education department showing our concerns about the closure of the path. It appears to be ignored and doesn't appear in any of the applications they put in. The closure of the route through the school will have a profound effect on everybody, effectively cutting the village in half for now and always. We already see at the moment, because the gate is being closed, that we now have 2 coffee mornings, one at the community on a Wednesday morning, one at the community centre, and one at Laces Way, where people cannot get to the community centre. I myself occasionally take people from the Laces Way area across to the community centre. I took a lady yesterday.
Can I ask you to sum up, please, Councillor O'Grady?
Okay,
Thank you.
right, okay. The basic thing is that these plans haven't been properly thought through, and we would ask you to reject the plans and ensure that the safety of everybody in the village and is adhered to, and that the planning application has been incorrectly approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those representations. If you wouldn't mind staying on the line in case there are any questions of clarification from committee members for you. Members, do we have any questions of clarity for the Parish Council? Councillor Connor?
Yeah, just one, Councillor O'Grady, please. So you feel that you've been largely ignored by the County Council, just to confirm that, yeah?
Yes, we've had no correspondence or anything with the County Council, and we've been lied by the Education Department as to what they are willing to do.
Right, just thank you.
Okay, members, any further questions of clarification for the Parish Council? No, I don't. Oh, sorry, Councillor Sanderson, please.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Grady, you said at the start that they didn't send you any pre-app papers, but I don't think that would normally be the case, would it? You would normally get notification and be able to comment on the application in full. Did you receive notification of it and your members have examined the application and have they voted on it?
Okay, so the original application, which had the school pass, we learned on the grapevine that they were considering taking the school pass out. We sent them a report why it should be included. The developers then sent out the revised or the first application, which was showing the path around the eastern edge of the field, which we showed to our councillors and which we approved and which the school was wholeheartedly behind. Right, that was the only application that we have ever seen. The next time we saw the application was when it came to your planning department in December. We'd had no correspondence between then and now with the education department at all.
So did you vote on it then? Did you determine?
We voted on the original planning application and we approved
in
it.
favour? You approved it, okay, thank you.
Yeah, we were in favour of the original one showing the path.
That's great. Thank you, Councillor O'Grady. I don't think there's any further questions for yourself. So I'll just say thank you very much for taking the time to give us your views today. And with that, we'll move on to our next public speaker, who is Mr. David Fletcher, who's with us in the room. And I believe you're being supported by Ian Trafford as well. If you'd both like to come forward to the desk. So, David, I know you're certainly familiar with the process, but again, between the two of you, 5 minutes to address the committee, and then there may be some questions of clarity at the end for yourselves. So whenever you're ready, please.
Perfect. Thank you, Chairman. As you've heard from officers, the application before you today is the rebuild of a fire damaged school. Just to give some additional context in this, the fire actually happened back in July 2020. And members will have seen from the pictures provided by the officer that there's parts of the school site that are currently unusable. There's also 3 mobile classrooms on the site which were erected in August 2020, which have been providing teaching accommodation both for reception and early years children for the best part of 2 years now. There are no proposals to increase the size of the school as part of this application. However, we have taken the opportunity to provide some improvements, which include an extension to the south of the school, reconfiguring the existing car parking within the site, which includes provision for some EV charging spaces. We are also providing new landscaping to the front of the school. We are fully aware of the representations that have been made in relation to the footpath within the school site. We consider this is both well considered and summarised within paragraphs 7.14 to 7.18 of the Planning Officer's Committee Report. As set out within the Committee Report, and as you've heard from the Planning Officer, there is currently no formal public right-of-way within the school site. We do recognise that this is an emotive issue and that there is local interest in this, and the current design and layout of the proposals in no way precludes the future provision of a footpath or a path via the school site. So Ian Trafford is with me today and he can provide further clarity to that if members have got questions. The current application is solely for the rebuilding of a fire damaged school and does not have any material planning bearing upon a future provision for a public right of way or a footpath which is controlled under separate process and legislation. Officers from the applicant team did meet with the parish council, the school and the school governors to discuss the footpath and agreed to address the two matters separately to ensure that the discussions around the footpath do not delay the rebuild of this school, which is vitally important in education terms. Since meeting with the parish council, officers from the estates, education, highways, as well as the school, have been looking into options and issues around the land ownership and safeguarding to come up with an assessment and options for footpath provision. Members will appreciate that this is not a straightforward process, given the safeguarding of children. As members will note from the committee report, we've also sought to listen to views and representations received during the planning application. This did include the removal of lighting columns previously proposed within the car parking and making some amendments to the facade of the building to take on comments from South Cambridgeshire District Council. We are fully supportive of the approach taken by planning officers and the proposed conditions, and happy to answer any questions members have. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much for that. Members, questions of clarification for the gentleman here? No, I don't see any. So just leaves me to say thank you very much. And we will move on to our final public speaker, who I believe we saw a bit earlier on our screens. Councillor Macdonald, are you with us, Peter?
Yes, good morning, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear and see you perfectly.
All right, great. There is some rather noisy air conditioning in the background, so I'll try and sort of go on mute and come off from time to time.
Okay, we can't hear it, so that's fine. I'm sure you heard me address the other public speakers, but as usual, 5 minutes to address the committee. And it looks like you're going to be talking to some slides that we can see on our screen as well.
Yeah, that's great. So I will, members, thanks for your time. I don't know, I was only able to share these slides with you yesterday. I'm going to go through them quite quickly and then propose some potential solutions so as not to hold up the development of the school. So the context here is that Duxford School is a very successful and vibrant school, wide accessibility to the community. But also, as you heard from Roy O'Grady, the Parish Council is one of the most proactive and professional in the area. Several members of the parish were the driving force behind the community. This community centre was built in 2020 at the back of the school. It's one of the most successful and active in the neighbourhood, as you can see from the activity programme on the right there. At the moment, as David, I think, and Jane have mentioned, the centre is connecting to the school through the rear entrance. I know there's questions to be, finally resolved on that. And the parish fully supports, as Roy mentions, and doesn't want to delay the rebuild of the school. But unfortunately, the plans as it stands, the new school plan cuts off the historic right of way from one side of the community to the other. Just for a point of clarification, members, which you've probably picked up, on page 55 of your documents, it shows the school and it shows the playing field, but no community centre. So I just want to assure you that it hasn't vaporised overnight, and the community centre is there on the right, as you can see, just outside the boundary of the school. So it is a vibrant community centre. It's very, very busy, and all of you are welcome to come along at any time. Very busy cafe, very successful cafe running with the community. Sometimes difficult to get a seat there in the morning or at lunchtime. It's so popular, with an excellent chef. So I think, as Roy has explained, if you look at this diagram and the red path in the centre, this is what caused some consternation, although we completely understand the safeguarding issues at the school. So once this is closed, there will be two long routes, one along the very busy Hunts Road, which carries HGVs, or alternatively a diversion route through the centre of the village round by the church. The purple one here isn't so much of an issue. The blue one is, and often parents park along Hunts Road. So coming to the request we'd like to make, in your document, page 34 says that, and David has alluded to this, the opinion that the officers to provide a footpath could not be justified. What I'd like to propose to you members is that we don't hold up the planning application, you consider it and allow it to progress. However, we would ask that we ask officers collectively to return, say within a 6-month period, with some options. And from what I heard from David and Ian, that shouldn't be an issue. So options for a right of way around the outside of the school. That would involve boundary discussion with the Diocese of Ely, an S106 discussion with South Cambs because of a small development adjacent to the playing fields, and enhanced safety measures on Hunts Road for those who use this route, whether it's a wider path or some fencing from the road as schools, parents and children work along. We do suggest this work continues in parallel. It's not a condition of the planning, and the potential final implementation of any new path would be in sequence with the build of the fencing. So let's say from 2023 onwards. So members, I hope that's useful and open to any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. That was very useful and well within the 5 minutes. So thank you very much for that. Members, do we have any questions of clarification for the local member? Councillor Connor, please.
Yeah, good morning, Peter. I suppose my question is, does Hunts Road have a suitable footpath and street lights?
Thanks, David. So there is a path there. The path is used at the moment, and parents during drop-off and pick-up, because the restricted parking around the school, they do use it. So it's currently in use. But that road is accessed for HGVs down to the factory area in Duxford. So if you stand there at school collection time, there will normally be, within a 30-minute period, 2, 3 or 4 heavy goods vehicles that come down there. So I realise that we're constrained a little bit because we don't want to encroach on school playing fields. So there may be some widening we can discuss with highways or some fencing at points along there.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that, Peter.
Thank you. Members, Councillor Sanderson, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Peter. My apologies, I probably should have asked this earlier and I may have missed it on the plans, but Jane showed us a raised table which didn't look to me to be a formal crossing in any way. Does that have a lollipop lady there at the moment, and are there any plans to formalise that as part of the planning process? That might be a useful thing to do, I think.
Not sure if you heard that question, Peter.
Yeah, I think Jane or some of the officers may be able to answer better than me. There is a hatched area outside the school for the buses to stop and pick up, and that would be retained as far as I know. Neither on Hunts Road or directly outside the school, if I recollect correctly, is a raised table, but Jane, one of the officers may be better able to comment.
Sorry, 1 second. Jane, I don't know if you're still on the line, are you? It might be helpful to share the slide that showed the crossing point Councillor Sanderson's referring to.
Yes, I'll just try and locate that for you.
Thank you.
There are no, I'll just try and share. There is no transport statement and travel plan with this application because it doesn't increase pupil numbers. So the traffic and travel aspects, and there's no improvements and mitigation as part of this application. What's there is existing. Just need to get back to be able to share this for you, but I can put the photograph up hopefully. Do you have that?
Yes, we can see that, Jane.
And I think this is the area that's been referred to where the children cross at the moment.
Councillor Sanderson, does that help with your query?
It does, Chair. Thank you for showing the slide again. It probably not directly a planning matter because I think Jane's answered the question, but those do tend to lead to a bit of confusion in my experience because people think they're a crossing when they're not. But that's probably a matter for highways. But thank you both.
That's great. Thank you for that. Members, before we move to the debate, any further questions or clarification for the local member? Councillor Gardner, please.
Just one question, Peter, with regard to the diversion of the footpath. Has the parish council or yourself looked at diverting the footpath along the edge of the playing field that's within the community centre grounds so that safeguarding of the children within the school is not compromised? And then you would then get out onto Hunts Road a lot closer to the top end rather than the long diversion route that you explained about earlier.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. Really good question. So the short answer is yes. So when we had the meeting at the school, we started to discuss various options, and hence my recommendation, which is give the officers 6 months to come back to the parish and discuss exactly those kind of options. I mentioned the Diocese of Ely, which would be the boundary to the east side of the school. But as you say, Ian, it could be the other side as well. And you hit the nail on the head, which is what we're trying to do here, is get some safe, pedestrian access for parents and the community access without ever bringing about any safeguarding issues. So thank you for that.
And Councillor Corney, please.
Thank you. Probably not so much a question for Councillor Macdonald, but more an officer. That seems like a perfectly reasonable suggestion. Is that within our gift to do that?
It's not within the gift of this. I'm trying to think how that could be orchestrated through this planning application. This planning application does not contain a footpath. There is no public right of way. So the applicant is proposing a proposal without a footpath. If the applicant were to, in future, as they've suggested, those negotiations are ongoing, if they wanted to do that, then they would actually have to submit another planning application in order to vary the design on the layout of the school, because they would need to show how that footpath was going to be accommodated within the school grounds. But that's the applicant's decision. It's not something that we can't condition something that is not within the gift of the application in the first place. I'm struggling to see how we would do that.
Okay, no, I think that's helpful. Okay, with that, I don't think there's any further questions for the local member. So Peter, thank you very much for your time and for the presentation. That was very useful. Members, we are now move into the debate. Obviously, we do have officers on hand and we have technical officers as well, should we have any further questions that they are best placed to answer. So with that, members, we've heard from various public speakers and also the presenting officer. So we're going to move into the debate now. Do any members wish to kick us off with the debate, please? Councillors Connor, then Kinsley.
Right. I suppose the question Councillor Corney quite rightly asked is very pertinent. So I suppose the question is to the officers over there, saying would they be prepared to look into that and accommodate a really sensible suggestion from Councillor Gardner and Councillor Corney. So would you prepare to look into that and see how things could move on that one?
I think that's a direct question to the agents of the applicant. I don't know if you want to...
It's to the applicants, obviously,
sure.
Yes.
I don't know if you want to come forward and respond to that.
Thank you. Ian Trafford, head of the Education Capital team. Yes, I attended and brokered the meeting to which Councillor Macdonald referred to on site. And I thought Councillor Macdonald summarised the outcome of that meeting very accurately. And I've no problem with moving forward with the commitments that were previously given. And as being referred to internally, I've already been having discussions with highways colleagues, public rights of way colleagues, the school and the diocese, so that we can move as quickly as we can to look at all the alternatives as soon as this planning application has gone through.
Okay, so I think the question was, would you be willing to, again, commit to coming back and having a look at future options for the footpath in and around the school?
Yes, yeah, good. That undertaking's been given and we've been working in the background towards that.
Super.
Just to come back on that, and thank you for clarifying that then. So that's a really good start, isn't it? So really, that needn't come back to this planning committee anymore. That could probably be delegated, couldn't it?
It would be outside of the, I'm looking to up the table, but it would be outside of the remit of this committee. There would be no reason for it to come back to
No,
this
that's
committee.
right. That's absolutely right. So it could be, I suppose the thing, it's a simple addition without bringing this planning committee to another meeting then, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you. Councillor Kindersley, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I understand the local concerns about the loss of a permissive right-of-way, but it was permissive. And the world has moved on, and safeguarding issues really must take precedence over the previous use of a permissive right-of-way. And that's very, I'm sure everybody's very much regrets that position, but that is where we are. And I heartily commend Councillor Macdonald and Mr. Trafford and colleagues for having come up with a plan to negotiate with the diocese, to negotiate, and the school presumably, to negotiate with South Cambridgeshire District Council around the Section 106 for the new development. And obviously, if the parish council itself felt it was appropriate to put in a local highway improvement bid for measures to improve safety on Hunts Road. But all of those matters are not anything to do with the planning committee and the planning application that we have in front of us. The planning application that we have in front of us seems to me to be very sensible. It's perhaps had a slightly unfortunate history locally, but you know, this was a school that was burnt down by an arsonist, and so you know, officers were possibly not expecting to have to rebuild a school in Duxford quite as soon as that moment, which has now arrived. A lot of thought has obviously been given to this, and I don't see any either statutory objection or any other reason that we should refuse this today. And indeed, the parish council's made it very clear, as has Councillor Macdonald, that we should get on with granting consent. And it's very comforting to move on from Councillor Connor's position. It's very comforting to hear Mr. Trafford say that officers are committed to work with the school, with the diocese, with the local member, with South Cambs, and no doubt with residents to try and achieve what it is that residents want. And I wish them the best of luck. But this planning application is before us. We have to decide it on material planning grounds, and there is no reason to object to it. So I would propose that we accept the officer recommendation and vote for acceptance.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Gardner, before I take that proposal, did you want to contribute to the debate, or were you going to propose something similar?
I was going to second.
Okay, good. That helps me out. So we have a proposal, members, to accept the recommendation in the report, which is at section 8.2, which has been proposed by Councillor Kindersley, seconded by Councillor Gardner. Members, before we take the vote, does anyone wish to debate this further? No. Okay, so could I have all those in favour of that proposal, please? Dan, I'm going to ask you as an impartial member to take the count.
Unanimous, Chair. Unanimous,
that's great. I suppose for clarity, anyone against or abstentions? No, that's handy. Okay, well that planning permission is granted, members. Okay, thank you very much to all those that contributed to that item, and we're going to move on now to item number 5, which is a summary of decisions taken under delegated powers. Just looking for a page number in the agenda. 60.
It's on the paper copy.
It is 66, indeed, is the introduction. I don't know if any officers are planning on presenting this, are they? Or are we just opening up for questions?
It's just to note, really. It's purely to note.
Good. So, members, any questions on that, or can we take that as noted? Noted. Superb. Okie dokie. Well, I think that concludes all our business today, members. So I thank you very much for contributing this morning. And with that, I close the meeting at 11:15. Thank you very much.